Some time ago, you and I had a conversation, and you were telling me that you were born or raised, I believe, in Kentucky.
No, Tennessee.
Tennessee.
I was born in Mississippi and raised in Tennessee.
And you were talking about, at that time, you were talking about how you paid your way through college.
Well, I paid, my folks got me started, and then I did all kinds of jobs to basically pay for my extra things. They paid the tuition, because the tuition at the University of Tennessee was $5 a semester. But yeah, I did a little bit of everything. I taught swimming. I taught. I did photography. I did. When I was in pharmacy school, I took portraits of couples at a Graflex, and I took portraits of couples on Sundays. And then I'd give my roommate money to go to a movie with his girlfriend, and I'd set up our room as a dark room and print them, deliver them the next week. Just, you know, odds and ends of things like that.
So you were going to be a pharmacist?
I thought seriously about it till I discovered that the only way to make money was to own your own drugstore. And I didn't see me ever having that money. So the one thing I was not going to be was a teacher.
And there's irony in that, because...
Yeah, there he is. I walked into my first classroom and the day after Labor Day, 1951. So it's been 60 years in September.
Well, how did you get started in photography?
When I was, my father was a high school principal, and there was a freelance photographer that did his sports, Gene Jordan. And Gene was just a hard-working freelance photographer. And I'd follow him around and pick up his flash bulbs so players wouldn't fall on him. And he bought a new speed graphic when I was 8 or 9 years old, and asked my dad if he could give me the old one. And Dad didn't care, so he gave it to me, and I went over to Gene's and learned how to load film, develop film, and make contact prints, and I've been at it ever since. I guess I've taught all my life. I started teaching private swimming lessons when I was 12. And you know, I guess I've taught all my life. But you know, I just thought I could make more money somewhere than I could teaching. Because when I started teaching in 1951, my pay was $2,235 a year.
Where was that?
In Nashville.
And how long did you stay in Nashville?
Well, I stayed there 4 years, and then I worked for the Boy Scouts of America for a while, but found out that I didn't get to work with young people there. I was always raising money. So I quit that, and I went back to teaching in Cleveland, Tennessee.
When did you move west?
In 1961.
What brought you here?
My dad retired in 1960 and took a job teaching in San Diego after 30 years in Nashville. And we came out to visit them that fall. And I was offered a job, but I wouldn't take it. I told them I could come back the next year, but I'd already signed a contract in Columbia, Tennessee, and I didn't want to break a contract. So then we came out in '61 and stayed. So.
How did you become involved with photography, teaching photography at Grossmont College?
Well, I've known a lot of people in photography around San Diego ever since I've been here. Lorenzo Gunn had a store, Second Exposure, and I worked for him for a while. And then I bought the store and ran it until I got tired of doing that. And so my friend and I sold it. So I knew a lot of people. And my wife went back to college when the last girls were in high school. And she was taking a class from Suda House, making photographic books. And they didn't have enough. So they asked if my friend Ken Wright and I would enroll in a class so there'd be enough to keep the class going. So I did, and that's when I met Suda. Then when Suda heard I'd retired, I was sitting there watching cooking shows one morning, and she called and says, "Can you come up here? I think we can use you." And I went up there and said, well, I'd do it for a year or two. And That was in 1989, and I've been there 20 years.
Is there any particular part of photography that excites you or intrigues you more than another?
I stay with film, first of all.
Right.
And most of the alternative processes, or antique processes is a better term, because silver prints are becoming alternatives now. But I like the antique processes because they're handcrafted. You take a good quality paper, you make sure it's treated correctly, then you coat the sensitizer on it and expose it, and you do everything yourself. You don't go to the store and buy it. And I like that. It's slower, but the results are pleasing to me. So that's what I do mostly. I probably haven't made 10 silver gelatin prints in the last 10 years.
Does that imply then that you make things such as platinum or?
Platinum, yeah. I make platinum prints and palladium prints and calotypes, and I make calotypes and tone them with gold and Van Dyke Browns and cyanotypes, almost all the processes, carbon. Yeah. And I hope to do more of it. I'll have a little more time now. We have 4 daughters, and as they left, when we got down to 1, at home I converted half the family room into a dark room. So yeah, I have my own. Have had always. My first dark room, when I was in junior high school, was in a dirt basement behind a coal-burning stove. It was dark, but it was dirty. And I've had them everywhere. I've had them in attics without water. I've had them in garages. I've always had a dark room.
You find a space that's dark and that's good enough.
I find a space I can darken if I have to, and that's all it takes. Just give me a little space.
So in your mind, it isn't absolutely necessary then to have hot and cold running water and...
Oh, no. No. In fact, I was at a former student's house today, and trying to help her find a place to put a darkroom. And you don't have to have water in there. It's nice. But the one I had in the attic had no running water. I carried water up the steps, and I'd print, and I'd throw them in a bucket of water, and they'd sit there, and I'd take them down and wash them in the bathtub.